You know that feeling, right? That Sunday evening dread that starts creeping in? Or maybe it's that little voice in your head that says, well, no job is perfect, just to get you through another week. And hey, that's true. No job is perfect. But what if you're leaning on that phrase a little too hard? What if that feeling isn't just a case of the Mondays, but a sign that something is seriously wrong? So that is the big question we are going to dive into. If you've been feeling that cynicism, that constant stress, if you feel disconnected from the person you used to be, and just can't imagine things getting better at work, well, you're in the right place. Let's start to unpack this. Okay, so first things first, we have to learn how to separate two very different experiences. On one hand, you've got normal discomfort. The kind that comes from being challenged, from learning new things, from growing. That's actually a good thing. But on the other hand, you've got a genuinely toxic environment. And that's a whole different beast. It's a harmful situation that doesn't just stay in the office, it bleeds into your personal life, your health, your relationships, and trust me, knowing which one you're dealing with is absolutely critical. So, how do you figure it out? Well, the first step might actually surprise you. It's not about making a list of everything wrong with your company or your boss. Nope. The first step is to look inward, at yourself. Just like the philosopher Lao Tzu said, knowing yourself is true wisdom. See, before you can really judge your workplace fairly, you got to get clear on what you truly want and need in the first place. Which brings us right to step one, look inward. Now, why do we start here? It's simple, really. A huge source of unhappiness at work comes from a mismatch between who you are and what you do every day. The more you understand your own career identity, the easier it's going to be to figure out if the problem is with the job or maybe just with how you fit into it. So let's start building that career identity. I want you to ask yourself this. What are you actually good at? And more importantly, which of those skills do you genuinely enjoy using? Because let's be real, a job that doesn't let you use your best talents is going to feel like a drag no matter what. Okay, next up, what do you need from your environment to really do your best work? And I'm not talking about free coffee or a ping pong table. I'm talking about the core stuff. Do you need a lot of freedom to make decisions? Do you thrive on constant clear feedback? Or maybe you need a really tight-knit collaborative team to feel energized. If those basic needs aren't met, it's like trying to run a marathon with your shoes tied together. It's just not going to work. Now think about this. What gets you into that flow state? Those moments where you're so into what you're doing that time just melts away? That's where your passions are hiding. And when you can line up your work with those interests, that's when a job starts to feel more like a calling. And finally, this is the big one. What does success actually mean to you? Seriously, not to your parents, not to your friends, not to what you see on social media, but to you. Is it about making a ton of money? Making a difference? Being creative? That personal definition, that's your compass. That's your true north. Knowing yourself also means learning to read your own emotional signals. It's totally normal to feel annoyed by a tedious task or a little worried about a big deadline. That's just part of work. But feeling deep resentment or a persistent sadness that just won't lift, whoa, those aren't normal bumps in the road. Those are major warning signs that something is seriously off. Okay, so once you've done some of that internal homework and you've got a clearer picture of yourself, now it's time for step two. Now we can turn our gaze outward and assess your environment. With that self-knowledge as your lens, you can look at your workplace with fresh eyes and really see what's going on. All right, take a look at this list and be honest. How many of these feel a little too familiar? You have no real control. Your confidence is taking a nosedive. There's nowhere to go, no path up. Maybe your friends are even saying, hey, you seem different lately. These are not just minor annoyances, folks. These are giant red flags for an unhealthy workplace. But hey, let's flip the script for a second. It doesn't have to be that way. In a healthy workplace, time flies by because you're actually engaged. You feel truly appreciated for who you are, not just for what you produce. You can put in extra effort when needed, but it doesn't destroy your well-being. This feeling of belonging and purpose, this is what we should all be aiming for. So, what if you've done the work, you've assessed the situation, and the arrows are all pointing to toxic? I know that can feel incredibly overwhelming, like you're trapped. But here's the most important thing I'm going to say. You are not powerless. And that brings us to step 3. Evaluate your options. You have power here. You can make a change. So, you really have 3 main paths forward. Path number 1, and this is a big if you feel safe enough to do it, is to talk to your manager directly. You could lay out your concerns and maybe even suggest some solutions. Maybe it's about getting clearer feedback or even exploring a different role within the company. Now, if talking to your boss feels like a complete non-starter, then you move to path number 2. Find an ally. This is someone at work you trust, someone who gets it. Think about it. One person complaining can sometimes be ignored, but 2 or 3 people raising the same issue, that's a pattern. That is much, much harder for a company to just brush aside. And hey, can I just pause here for a second? While you're navigating all of this, please remember to be kind to yourself. This kind of situation can be absolutely soul-crushing. You've probably worked hard, you've made sacrifices. It is so important to give yourself some grace right now. A toxic environment has this nasty way of chipping away at your self-worth, making you feel like maybe you're the problem. But I need you to hear me on this. It's not you. Take a minute and remind yourself of all the value you bring. In fact, think about it. This awful experience has probably made you more resilient, more empathetic, a better problem solver. Those are valuable skills. And that really brings us to the real bottom line here. This whole framework, looking in, looking out, and then looking ahead, it's not just about deciding whether or not to quit your job. It's about something so much bigger. It's about restoring your sense of self-worth and getting your direction back. Because in the end, it all boils down to a very simple truth. We all deserve to feel appreciated, to feel seen, to feel heard in our jobs. And if your current workplace isn't giving you that, then you have to remember that you are worthy of something better. And you are 100% capable of finding it. That's not just a nice thought. That's a real possibility.